After spending the night in pitch darkness, Palestinians in the Gaza Strip on Thursday woke up once again to the sight of pulverized neighborhoods as Israel unleashed more air raids following an unprecedented attack last week by Hamas. The group running the besieged enclave. Residents have described the aerial attacks as the heaviest bombing campaign in recent memory, with more than 1,200 people killed. In Israel, the death toll from Hamas's attack has reached 1,300. International aid groups are now warning that deaths in Gaza could accelerate as Israel has announced a complete siege of the densely populated territory, blocking the entry of food and fuel. On Wednesday, Gaza's only power station ran out of fuel and shut down, leaving only lights powered by scattered private generators. Those will shut off shortly as well if fuel is not allowed in.
What's been going on? But yes, multiple casualties along this.
Geneva. The Euromed Human Rights Monitor has stated that Israel's relentless aerial and artillery attacks on the Gaza Strip have turned it into a hellhole where death and destruction prevail in extremely complex humanitarian conditions, without any basic life services. The Euromed Monitor has documented the killing of at least 14 Palestinians every hour on the 8th day of Israel's military operation, Operation Iron Swords, in the Gaza Strip. So far, this operation has included the dropping of more than 6,000 bombs on the densely populated area with over 2 million residents. Civilian residents in Gaza find themselves with no shelter, fleeing from one form of death to another in an inhumane reality. Basic services such as electricity, water, communications, and the internet are in short supply, posing unprecedented and serious threats to food security. The Israeli Mini-Security Cabinet approved a state of war on the Gaza Strip on Saturday evening, allowing the army to conduct extensive military operations in response to Hamas launching an armed attack on Israel called the Al-Aqsa Flood. Since that time, the Israeli army has executed thousands of airstrikes and artillery strikes around the clock, targeting residential neighborhoods and multi-story buildings housing the population in the Gaza Strip. The International Human Rights Monitor documented that Israel's attacks have destroyed 2,650 residential buildings and severely damaged approximately 70,000 residential units. In addition, 65 government buildings were destroyed. Israel's attacks also caused destruction to at least 71 schools, the destruction of 145 industrial facilities, 61 media headquarters, the demolition of 18 mosques, and the damage to dozens of ancient churches and mosques. The Gaza Strip was already experiencing a wide-scale displacement as a result of Israel's attacks. Euromed Monitor documented the displacement of over 820,000 individuals to UN-affiliated schools, governmental schools, and the homes of relatives and neighbors. More than 450,000 people were displaced after their homes were destroyed or damaged in Israeli air raids. In the absence of a safe haven, tens of thousands of civilians sought refuge in hospitals to protect themselves from Israel's attacks, with over 35,000 people taking shelter in the Shifa medical complex alone. In addition to this, the Israeli army has been intimidating the residents of the Gaza and northern regions by warning them of collective evacuations from their residential areas and to head to the central and southern regions of the Gaza Strip. Euromed Monitor highlighted that the evacuation warnings for civilians in Gaza were made without any announcement of halting air raids and aerial attacks, and without any safety or return guarantees, amounting to a war crime in the form of forced transfer. In a literal translation of the events, Euromed Monitor stated that 73 Palestinians were killed, and more than 130 others were injured on Friday afternoon, due to Israeli targeting of trucks and cars carrying evacuees on Salah al-Din and Rashid streets as they attempted to reach the area south of Wadi Gaza upon the Israeli army's request. Euromed Monitor expressed strong condemnation of the deliberate targeting of civilians who had been forcibly displaced from their homes after being intimidated and warned by the Israeli army. This constitutes an open practice of forced transference, outside international law. It emphasized that such an action constitutes a blatant violation of Article 49 of the Fourth Geneva Convention, which prohibits the occupying power from directly transferring residents or deporting individuals protected under international law in the occupied territory. The Israeli army even warned 4 hospitals, including Kamal Adwan Hospital, Al-Auda Hospital, Al-Quds Hospital, and the Jordanian Field Hospital, to evacuate them from the Gaza and northern regions, a measure that prevents essential and emergency health services for hundreds of thousands of residents. Euromed Monitor called for immediate international action to ensure the supply of electricity, water, and basic necessities in Gaza, and to lift the illegal Israeli blockade imposed on the territory since 2006, which is a major cause of the ongoing conflict. It stressed that the ongoing collective punishment of civilian populations in Gaza amounts to a war crime, while Israel, as the occupying power, is legally obligated to meet the basic needs of civilian populations under international law. In light of all that is happening, Euromed Monitor questioned the position of the International Criminal Court, which initiated an investigation into the situation in the Palestinian territories 2 years ago, including crimes under international law taking place in Gaza. The International Committee of the Red Cross, ICRC, said Gaza's hospitals risk turning into morgues as severely wounded civilians, including infants, are rushed inside its crowded wards, where beds and medical supplies are running out. As Gaza loses power, hospitals lose power, putting newborns in incubators and elderly patients on oxygen at risk, said Fabrizio Carboni, the ICRC's regional director. OCHA said all 13 hospitals in the territory are only partially operational due to severe shortages of fuel and crucial medical supplies. Israel on Thursday said there would be no humanitarian exceptions to its siege of Gaza until all its hostages are freed by Hamas. Humanitarian aid to Gaza, no electrical switch will be lifted, no water hydrant will be opened, and no fuel truck will enter until the Israeli hostages are returned home, Israeli Energy Minister Israel Katz said in a social media post. Egypt on Thursday said it was directing international aid flights for Gaza to an airport in northern Sinai, although Israeli bombardments along the border have so far hampered the delivery of the relief. The Rafah border crossing between the Sinai and Gaza remained open, the Egyptian Ministry of Foreign Affairs said, adding that Egypt asked Israel to avoid targeting the Palestinian side of the crossing after strikes prevented normal operations there. Israel's bombing and total siege on Gaza has caused alarm in Egypt, which shares a border with the south of the narrow coastal enclave. El Arish Airport in northern Sinai, about 45 kilometers 28 miles from the Gaza border, was prepared to receive aid deliveries from Qatar and Jordan, but these would not leave the airport until humanitarian corridors had been established, Egyptian security sources told the Reuters news agency. United States Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrived in Israel on Thursday as President Joe Biden's administration seeks to send a message of unequivocal support to its ally, Israel, and deter regional forces hostile to it from joining the fight alongside Hamas. Blinken addressed reporters in Tel Aviv saying the death toll for U.S. citizens killed in the attacks by Hamas has risen to at least 25. Up from 22 on Wednesday. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said, "Thank you, America, for standing with Israel today, tomorrow, and always." Also on Thursday, U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin said he expected Israel's military to do the right thing as it prepares for a ground assault on Gaza. He said the U.S. has placed no conditions on military assistance to Israel. Rights groups worry that, facing little outside pressure, Israel's assault on Gaza could move forward with little regard for civilian casualties or adherence to international law. While the world's focus has been fixed on events in Gaza and Israel, tensions in the occupied West Bank are also at a boiling point with an Israeli lockdown in place and Israeli settlers killing several Palestinians in a series of attacks over the past week. On Thursday, a Palestinian father and his son were shot dead by Israeli settlers and soldiers taking part in a funeral procession held for 4 Palestinians killed in a settler attack the day before. Also on Thursday, 2 Palestinians were injured by Israeli forces in a shooting near a police station in occupied East Jerusalem. Israeli police said they opened fire at a group of Palestinians after one man allegedly shot at the police station. Well, this brings us to the end of the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Which one, in your opinion, is the best in the world, and why? Let us know in the comments. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and if you haven't already, what are you waiting for? And subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon now to stay updated. See you in the next one soon. Until then, stay safe.